Well, before we get into tapping the rest of that block, I wanted to show you what 179 boring bars look like. Actually, 178. We got different styles here right now. We have the style with a 1/2 inch and the 3/8. We have both of those with the double ends, which some of our viewers that have been following us know all about. What we added this time, we added a short 1/2 inch single side and a short 3/8 single side. And what we use those for is we'll use them in the boring head. That if you want to use it in the mill, I have a 3-inch boring head right here, and it has 3/4 inch hose. So to use the 3/8 boring bar, or a 1/2 inch, you'll have to make a sleeve similar to what I got here. I got flats on this in 4 places, so that when the screw pushes and tightens down over here, I'll get a 3-point contact with the 2 back sides and with the screw in the front. I also relieved a few tenths in the middle right here, so that I'll have a 3-point contact at the top and at the bottom, and it'll hold these in there nice and rigid. But anyhow, you can get that set up. Yeah, I don't have it the way it should go. You'd have to have the split actually over here, so I'd have to line the bar up. You know, you'd have to get that lined up so that it would go like so. And it'll hold those in there real nice and tight. And then also you have to have a sleeve to go from the 3/4 inch to the 1/2 inch, and we will be making shortly in the future sleeves as well. But anyhow, we just have to have these laser etched, and they'll be ready to go. We're going to try to have hopefully about 40 of them done before this YouTube event in Texas with the Good of the Land takes place, and we'll bring those there. So if you're planning on being there and you're interested in some, we'll have hopefully about 40 of them available for sale over there. And we can talk prices on these double ends. They'll come with a screw, and they'll come with 1 insert, a Sumitomo insert. They'll be $75. And with these small ones, I'm not sure, it's either 60 or 65. I think it was 60, wasn't it, Kat?
You go back and forth.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the laser etching is going to cost us, but that will come with an insert and a screw. And the insert and the screw itself is about a $10 value, depending on whether it's a 1/2 inch or the 3/8, and the other one was pretty close to that as well. We're going to get ready to tap the top, and so I just used in the short term right here just some gauge blocks underneath there to hold this. This little lip is about 2/1000ths above this block. What happens with automatic tap head, when you reverse it, it could lift up the block, and you don't want to do that. I also had to modify and put me a little spacer block, add another tap hole in the vise there, so that I can come high enough for our handle there. Just some quick adjustments had to make. Also, Randy Richard, he was kind enough to send us one of these. Randy and Mr. Pete are working together. They're just doing a 3D printing. So you got Mr. Pete Tubal Cain on that side, and you got Randy Richard's logo on that side. It's kind of a nice design. If these tip over, you're not going to lose a big spill. If you grab it right away, you might get some out. But this tube going down in the middle, it goes way down, and then it can fill up in there, and it's got 2 little holes on the top, so it won't make a big mess. And because it's tapered, the weight is at the bottom, and it works really good. And before, I was just using the oiler, and I would just hit the holes in the tap, but I would get a buildup of chips on the tap, and I wanted to wipe them off, and so using this brush worked really good for that. One of the other things I did that is different from tapping the holes in the sides over here, was I was using, let me grab the container a minute. I was using this cutting oil for tapping, and it worked pretty good, but I ran out. And so I went down to Lowe's and a few other places, a Tractor Supply. I was hoping that I might even find some of that high sulfur content, that black cutting oil that they use for threading pipes, and I didn't find any of that. And so I came back and I started thinking, I got that Simperal 1075, that cutting fluid that I use as a straight mix. I'll use that on a lot of stuff, and I thought, well, that stuff's, it's an oil-based coolant. It's very slippery and it's clingy yet too. And so anyhow, I tried that on the other block on the top, and it worked really good. You can actually hear the difference. A lot quieter, a lot smoother. Everything about it, in my opinion, on that other block outperformed the other oil we had there, and that was just using it straight. And so I got straight coolant in here, and then I also changed it in here because this works nicer for putting a drop or two in each hole. And over here I added about maybe a little over 3/4 full, and then I added some water, mixed it up in there really good. And so with this I can just hit each hole like so, and over here I can come over here and paint the thread. So now I'm going to turn on the generator and we'll get to the point where we'll be tapping these holes. We're running, it's hard to tell on here, but it's close to 200 RPMs. So in this case I got this so that I can slide my block. I don't have to wind my position to my holes. I can just slide it and let it self-align. There you have it. That's 20 holes that we just tapped, going about 1 inch deep. Blocks will have to be cleaned up from here and all the chips removed. That tap is already tapped. I'm going to say probably close to 200 hose. It's an OSG High Pro 7. It's a semi-bottoming tap because we do have blind holes. It's spiral fluted, so it will, pull the chips up out of the hole. They're my favorite taps. They work awesome. So this is the second block we got finished now. We got to do Michael's. We got to tap his, and then we'll be done with the 1/4 20. And then we'll put Stevens in there, and we'll change to a 6 millimeter. We'll tap his block, and then we'll get them all cleaned up, send them out to heat treat, and at that point all that's left to do is grind. Originally I was looking at about $1,200 a block. I think I'm going to do them under $1,000. I got a source right now. When we get back from the Texas event, I will order enough steel over here to do 6 more. I want to make a special block for solid rock that I can use to grind these on, and so it'll be slightly different than this. But we have a CNC source, a friend of mine. He quoted us and gave us a good price on drilling, well actually squaring the blocks up if we supply the steel, do at least 5 at a time. on squaring the blocks up and drilling and tapping the holes all on CNC. It gave us a good price, and there's just no way in the world that we can compete with that price. And that's the beauty of CNC. When you get something like this, you're just not going to compete. With this Tapmagic or Tapmatic tapping head, though, it did take hours of workout, and it just made tapping these holes very easy. And so one of the nice things that we had as we done this, the children had an opportunity to learn some new things that they didn't get to see yet, like with the tapping head and some of the other things, and drilling the holes, and so they got some experience on that. And so anyhow, I know the future blocks we can go cheaper than what I originally said here. So for the 3 blocks that I have that I'm be making over here that are going to sell them, they were originally $1,200. I know we're going to be under $1,000. How much under $1,000? I'll have to decide that based on how much time it takes me to finish grinding, and then we can give an update on that. But anyways, if anybody's interested in any of these, you know, give us a holler. Like I say, they'll be under $1,000. They'll be ground extremely precision. Within, I'm going to shoot for having them less than 50 millionths in 4 inches, or at least 50 millionths in 4 inches. That's going to be the target that I'm going to shoot, that or better. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll shoot some more, another video on the grind, show you what's all involved on the grinding when we get to that point. Even though it's just a simple square block, to hold those kind of tolerances, there's a few tricks involved. You have to have good equipment. You have to have a few techniques that you can take out, you know, less than a 1/10 taper. And we've covered that on grinding a Friends cube. We'll be have a video already like that, but we'll be shooting another one when we grind these. And the one thing I want to make real plain to anybody that's interested in buying these, you can have the squarest cube in the world, and these things can be used on the mill and they can be used on the surface grinder, but that won't make your work necessarily come square off it. There's a lot of other variables that have to be controlled. If your equipment isn't in good shape and it's not square, and you can't hold your block square with your cutting surface of whether it's a surface grinder or a mill, that's going to affect the accuracy of your work. Also, the techniques that you use for squaring things, they will also affect the accuracy of your work. You can look at some of our videos and you can see that I've altered this vise. This Kurt vise, when I got it brand new, after I checked it out and made sure everything was working on it good, I pulled it all apart and I re-ground everything. I ground the jaws, I ground this base, I ground the bottom. I got that all ground. I added some 3/8 holes back here because it just has 2 nice big bolts coming up from the bottom that hold this down. I wanted some pressure coming and holding from this direction as well, because what would happen is if when you tighten this vise, the jaws would actually move and distort, so you can have a perfectly square block in there, and if you're not holding it right, it would distort on you, and so it's no longer square. If you would hold your work on the ends without having something of equal thickness on this side, it distorts in a couple ways, and we've done some YouTube videos on here. The technique that you use for squaring things, we have a video on squaring a block on this mill with this vise after it's been altered, where we show it in the video where you're milling this block square within 2/10,000ths, flat, parallel, and square with each side within 2/10,000ths, and it's the technique that I'm using that I can achieve that over there. And again, we already done a video on that. And so there's a lot more to getting your work really precision than just having square tools. You have to know how to use them. You have to know some of the tricks of the trade, and any support equipment, any other work holding, like if you're on the mill and the vise. If your vise isn't in good shape, it doesn't matter. no matter how square your tool is that you have in your vise, if the vise can't hold that square, or if your head's not trimmed in right, or if your surface grinder, if your magnetic chuck isn't ground flat, you're still going to struggle with getting parts square. But if you have all those other variables under control, having a square block like the ones that we're making over here, they're awesome. One of my favorite tools, because of everything else, all the other variables are controlled. You can bolt something up to it and you can make some stuff just as square as that block, and you can do it really fast, do it really accurate. And like I say, if there's only one tool as far as a grinder is concerned and surface grinding that I could have, it would definitely be one of these cubes. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.